My name is Amanda Wilson, 32 years old, and until last summer, I believed family meant unconditional love and trust. Every July, our entire clan gathers at my parents' lakeside home in Michigan for our annual reunion. I always looked forward to seeing my sister Jessica most of all. We were inseparable growing up, sharing every secret and dream. I never imagined that weekend would teach me the true cost of blind trust when my entire savings for my dream home vanished overnight. Before I tell you how my own blood betrayed me, let me know where you are watching from. If family drama makes your heart race hit, subscribe now. Trust me, what happened next changed everything. The 2-hour drive to my parents' lakeside home always filled me with nostalgia. As my car wound through the tree-lined roads of northern Michigan, memories of childhood summers flooded back. Swimming competitions with Jessica, campfires with marshmallows, and Dad telling ghost stories that made us squeal. The lake house was my parents' retirement dream, a sprawling cedar cabin with a wraparound porch overlooking crystal blue waters. Mom had cultivated gardens that burst with wildflowers, and Dad had built a dock where we would fish for hours. I pulled into the gravel driveway, spotting several familiar cars already parked. Mom and Dad Robert and Eleanor Wilson, both in their 60s, emerged onto the porch, waving enthusiastically. Dad, still robust, with a full head of silver hair, bounded down the steps to help with my bags, while Mom, her blonde hair now streaked with gray, wrapped me in a lavender-scented hug. "Amanda, sweetheart, we were wondering when you would arrive," Mom said, squeezing me tight. "Everyone else is already here." "Sorry I am late. Had to finish a presentation before leaving the office," I explained, shouldering my weekend bag. Inside, the familiar scent of Mom's apple pie filled the air. The great room buzzed with conversation. My sister Jessica, 34, with the same strawberry blonde hair we both inherited from Mom, sat on the couch nursing a glass of wine. Her husband Marcus lounged beside her, his arm draped possessively around her shoulders. Their children, 4-year-old Tyler and 2-year-old Sophia, played on the carpet with wooden blocks. Auntie Amanda, Tyler shouted, abandoning his tower to crash into my legs. I scooped him up, planting kisses on his chubby cheeks. Jessica rose to hug me, her embrace lasting a beat too long. I noticed dark circles under her eyes, partially concealed with makeup. "You okay?" I whispered. "Just tired. The kids have been a handful," she replied, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Marcus stood, offering a stiff hug. "The successful career woman graces us with her presence," he said, with a smile that seemed forced. Marcus had never quite warmed to me, always seeming to view our conversations as competitions. 6 feet tall, with carefully styled dark hair and expensive clothes, he worked in real estate development, though Jessica had once confided he had not closed a significant deal in over a year. "Good to see you too, Marcus," I replied neutrally. My cousin Rachel and her husband Ethan waved from the kitchen where they were helping Mom prepare dinner. Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister, and Uncle Gerald were out on the deck arranging chairs for the evening barbecue. The afternoon unfolded with familiar traditions. Dad fired up the grill while Uncle Gerald told the same fishing stories he shared every year. The kids splashed in the shallow water at the lake's edge, supervised by Rachel and Ethan. I helped Mom and Aunt Patricia set up the picnic tables, covering them with checkered tablecloths weighted down with stones against the gentle breeze. After lunch, we played our annual family softball game in the large side yard. Teams were drawn, trash talk exchanged, and laughter echoed across the property. I noticed Jessica sitting out something she never did, while Marcus kept checking his phone. During a water break, I cornered Jessica. "Are you sure everything is all right? You seem distracted." She glanced toward Marcus before answering. "Everything is fine. Just some stress with the house and bills. Nothing unusual." She forced a laugh. "Speaking of success, Mom mentioned you got promoted. Senior marketing director. Now, right. Must come with a nice salary bump." "It did," I admitted, surprised at the abrupt topic change. "Finally saving for that downtown condo I have been eyeing." Jessica smiled. "That is amazing. I am so proud of you. That evening, after a feast of grilled steaks and Mom's famous potato salad, we gathered around the fire pit. The sunset painted the lake in shades of orange and pink, as marshmallows roasted on sticks and stories flowed as freely as the wine. "A toast, Dad," announced, raising his glass. "To another year of Wilson family memories." Glasses clinked as everyone echoed the sentiment. I noticed Marcus watching me intently from across the fire. When I caught his eye, he smiled and raised his glass specifically to me. As the evening progressed, the older adults retired to bed, and Cousin Rachel and Ethan took their leave, promising to return for tomorrow's activities. Jessica put the children to bed in the upstairs room they always used. I found myself alone on the dock, feet dangling above the water, when Marcus approached with 2 glasses of whiskey. "Thought you might want something stronger than wine," he said, sitting beside me. "Thanks," I replied, accepting the drink cautiously. Marcus and I had never spent time alone together. "So this promotion," he began. "Jessica mentioned you are looking at real estate now. Downtown properties are a solid investment. I could help you navigate the market." "I appreciate the offer. I have been working with a realtor who specializes in that area." Of course," he nodded. "Just looking out for family. Speaking of which, Jessica and I have been thinking about setting up an emergency fund for the extended family. Something we could all contribute to for unexpected situations." The conversation struck me as odd, but I nodded politely. "That is an interesting idea. How do you manage your banking?" "Multiple accounts," he asked casually. "Just checking and savings with online access." "Makes it simple," I replied, increasingly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "Smart. Mobile banking is so convenient now. Jessica still insists on going to physical branches." He laughed. "She could learn from you." Jessica joined us then, looking tense. "What are you two talking about?" "Your financially savvy sister was just telling me about her banking setup," Marcus replied. Jessica sat beside me. "Amanda has always been good with money. Remember how she could make her allowance last twice as long as mine?" The conversation shifted to childhood memories, but throughout the evening I noticed Jessica and Marcus exchanging tense glances. At one point, I overheard them in a heated whisper behind the boathouse. "We cannot ask her that," Jessica hissed. "We do not have a choice anymore," Marcus replied firmly. I pretended not to hear, but a sense of unease settled in my stomach. The next day brought more family activities. The annual photo session by the lake, water skiing for the adventurous, and board games for those preferring to stay dry. During lunch, Jessica spilled lemonade on my shirt, insisting I change immediately while she tried to treat the stain. I thought nothing of it, heading upstairs to my overnight bag for a fresh top. That evening, during a moment when I stepped away to take a work call, I returned to find my purse slightly rearranged. Again I dismissed it, assuming one of the kids had been curious. Our final dinner together was bittersweet, as these gatherings always ended. Mom prepared her special lasagna, and Dad opened bottles of wine he had been saving for the occasion. Toasts were made, pictures taken, and promises to stay in better touch exchanged. As I packed my car the next morning, Jessica hugged me tightly. "I love you, sis," she whispered, her voice cracking slightly. "Love you too. Call me anytime, okay?" I replied, concerned by her emotional response. Marcus gave me a firm handshake. "Safe travels, Amanda. Thanks for everything." His choice of words struck me as odd, but I was focused on the long drive ahead and a busy week at work. I waved goodbye to my family, watching them grow smaller in my rearview mirror, completely unaware that I would be seeing them again much sooner than planned. Monday morning arrived with the usual rush of emails and meeting notifications. I made coffee in my apartment, mentally preparing for the week ahead, while appreciating the lingering warmth of family time. Before heading to the office, I opened my banking app to pay my monthly bills. The screen loaded, and I blinked, certain I was misreading the numbers. My checking account showed a balance of $47. My savings account, which had contained my house down payment fund of $75,000, read $520. A cold wave of panic washed over me. I logged out and back and hoping for a system error. The numbers remained unchanged. My hands began to shake so badly, I dropped my phone onto the kitchen counter. "This cannot be happening," I whispered to the empty apartment. I called the bank, immediately navigating through automated menus with increasing desperation until reaching a customer service representative. "I need to report unauthorized activity on my accounts," I said, my voice trembling. "I can help you with that," the representative replied calmly. "Can you verify when you last accessed your accounts?" Friday morning before I left for a family weekend, I answered, already mentally calculating the timeline. After verifying my identity, the representative pulled up my transaction history. "Miss Wilson, I see several transfers made over the weekend. On Saturday, there was a transfer of $50,000 from your savings to your checking account, followed by a wire transfer of $49,500 to an external account. On Sunday, there was another transfer of $24,000 from savings to checking, followed by another wire transfer." "I did not make those transfers," I insisted, my heart pounding. "I was at a family reunion all weekend." "Were you logged into your account at any point during this time?" I tried to remember, maybe briefly to check my balance, but I definitely did not authorize any transfers. "The transfers were made using your credentials from your usual device," the representative explained. "There were no security alerts triggered." My mind raced, trying to piece together what happened. I remembered Jessica spilling lemonade on my shirt, my phone left on the table during the softball game, my purse seeming disturbed after I returned from my work call. "Can you tell me where the money was sent?" I asked. "I can see the receiving bank, but account holder information would require a formal investigation. Would you like to file a fraud claim?" "Yes," immediately I replied. The representative explained the process, warning me that since the transfers were made using my credentials, the investigation might be complicated. They could place a freeze on my accounts and issue a temporary card for essential expenses. After ending the call, I sat in stunned silence before a horrifying thought struck me. I checked my credit cards. All three were maxed out with cash advances and purchases I never made. The total damage was over $120,000 when combined with the bank transfers. I tried calling Jessica. No answer. I called my parents. Mom picked up, sounding cheerful. "Amanda, missing us already?" "Mom, is Jessica still there?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. "Yes, they decided to stay an extra day. Marcus had some car trouble. Is everything okay? You sound upset." "I need to speak with Jessica urgently. Can you put her on?" She and Marcus took the kids to the beach. "Is there something I can help with?" I hesitated, not wanting to alarm my mother before confirming my suspicions. "No, I just need to ask her something about a shared account. I will try her cell again." After trying Jessica's phone repeatedly with no answer, I made a decision. I called my boss, explained I had a family emergency, and requested the day off. Then I threw some clothes into a bag and headed for my car. The 2-hour drive back to my parents' lake house felt like an eternity, my mind cycling through confusion, disbelief, and growing anger. Memories from the weekend played on repeat. Marcus asking about my banking setup. Jessica's unusual behavior. The whispered arguments. The moments my belongings were unattended. A particular memory surfaced sitting on the couch, with my phone checking my account balance, and Marcus casually sitting beside me, glancing over as I entered my password. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. By the time I pulled into my parents' driveway again, my shock had crystallized into a cold, hard certainty. My parents' front door opened before I could knock. Mom stood there, confusion evident on her face. "Amanda, what are you doing back here? I thought you had work." "Where are Jessica and Marcus?" I asked, stepping past her into the house. "In the guest room upstairs. Marcus is still trying to arrange for their car to be fixed." "Amanda, what is going on?" Dad appeared from his study, reading glasses perched on his nose. "Is everything okay?" "No," I replied flatly. Everything is not okay. I need to talk to everyone. Now. The firmness in my voice must have conveyed the gravity of the situation, because Dad immediately called upstairs for Jessica and Marcus. Mom led me to the living room, her hand on my arm. "Sweetheart, you are scaring me. Are you ill?" I shook my head, unable to speak, as Jessica and Marcus descended the stairs. Jessica looked alarmed at my unexpected appearance, but Marcus maintained a neutral expression. "Family meeting," Dad announced, gesturing everyone to sit. "Amanda has something important to discuss." I remained standing, pulling out my phone and opening the banking app. Someone stole over $100,000 from my accounts this weekend. I stated, watching their reactions carefully. "All my savings. All my credit. Everything." Mom gasped. Dad leaned forward, brow furrowed. Jessica paled visibly, while Marcus crossed his arms, his expression unchanged. "Oh my God," Jessica whispered. "How did that happen?" "That is what I would like to know," I replied, looking directly at her. "Because, according to the bank, the transfers were made from my phone while I was here, with all of you." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Dad cleared his throat. "Are you suggesting someone here took your money?" "I am not suggesting it. I know it happened," I said, turning my phone to show them the transaction history. $75,000 from my savings. Over $40,000 in credit card charges and cash advances. All during our family weekend. "This is ridiculous." Marcus finally spoke, his voice even. "Why would any of us need to steal from you?" "You tell me, Marcus," I countered. "You were awfully interested in my banking setup Friday night. And Jessica, you spilled lemonade on my shirt and insisted I change immediately. Was that just a coincidence?" Jessica began to cry, looking at Marcus with panic in her eyes. "Amanda, these are serious accusations," Dad said sternly. "Family does not steal from family." "I agree," I replied, my voice breaking. "So imagine how I felt this morning when I discovered my entire life savings gone." Marcus stood up, towering over me. "You have always been dramatic, Amanda. Always the victim. Maybe you made these transfers yourself and forgot. Or maybe you are just looking for attention." My hands trembled with rage. "The bank traced the IP address, Marcus. The transfers came from this house while I was here." Jessica sobbed harder, and Marcus shot her a warning glance. "For God's sake, Jessica, tell her," Mom suddenly said, surprising everyone. Jessica looked up, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "We did not have a choice," she whispered. "We are drowning, Amanda." The admission hit me like a physical blow. "You stole from me." Marcus snorted dismissively. "We needed it more than you. You are single with a great job. We have kids to support." "That does not give you the right to steal my money," I shouted. "Lower your voice," Marcus warned. "This is a family matter, and we can solve it as a family." "By stealing from me?" I asked incredulously. Jessica wiped her tears, composing herself. "We were going to pay you back, Amanda. Marcus's development deal is almost closed. We just needed bridge financing." "Bridge financing? You emptied my accounts without asking me." Dad stood up, placing himself between us. "Everyone needs to calm down. There has obviously been a serious lapse in judgment here, but we are family. We can work this out." I stared at him in disbelief. "Work it out? They stole over $100,000 from me." "We will pay it back," Jessica insisted weakly. "Eventually." "Eventually," I echoed. "That money was for my house. I have been saving for 5 years." Marcus scoffed. "You can keep renting. We were about to lose our home. The bank was threatening foreclosure. So you decided my savings were the solution, without asking me." Mom stepped forward, placing a hand on my arm. "Amanda, I understand you are upset. What they did was wrong, but they have the children to think about. Surely you do not want your niece and nephew homeless." I pulled away from her, stunned by her response. "Are you actually defending them?" "No one is defending anything," Dad interjected. But making this public would destroy the family. We need to handle this privately. They committed a crime, I insisted. It is not a crime between family, Marcus stated confidently. Family shares everything. That is not how this works, I argued. You cannot just take what is not yours and claim family privilege. Jessica approached me, reaching for my hands. Please, Amanda. We have been struggling for years. Marcus's business had setbacks. We have medical bills for the kids, credit card debt. We were desperate. So you came to the reunion planning to rob me? I asked, pulling my hands away. Not initially, she admitted. But when you mentioned your promotion and savings, we realized you could help us. Help you? You did not ask for help. You stole from me. Marcus stepped closer, his presence intimidating. Keep your voice down. The kids are napping upstairs. The kids you used as an excuse to steal my life savings, I shot back. We are family, Marcus repeated firmly. Family takes care of each other. This is not taking care of each other. This is theft. Dad sighed heavily. Amanda, what do you want to happen here? Do you really want to involve the authorities? Think about what that would do to Jessica, to the children. I felt increasingly isolated as my family seemed to close ranks around Jessica and Marcus. So I am just supposed to accept that my savings are gone, that my sister and brother-in-law betrayed me. That is your solution. No one is saying that, Mom soothed. We will figure out a repayment plan. Your father and I can help with some of it. You knew about this? I asked, a new betrayal dawning. Not about the transfers, Dad quickly clarified. But we have been helping Jessica and Marcus financially for some time now. So, this is not even the first time, I said, realization settling in. This is a pattern. We have had some difficult times, Jessica admitted. But we always intended to pay everyone back. Marcus checked his watch impatiently. This conversation is pointless. What is done is done. We can set up a payment plan if it makes you feel better, but realistically it will take years. His casual dismissal of destroying my financial security pushed me over the edge. I want my money back. All of it. Now. Marcus laughed. Or what you will call the police on your own sister, the mother of your niece and nephew. Think about how that would look. I do not care how it looks. I care about justice. Justice, he repeated mockingly. Always so righteous, Amanda. This is why you are alone at 32. All about principles, never about people. Jessica placed a restraining hand on his arm. Marcus, that is enough. No, let him speak, I said coldly. Let him explain why stealing from family is justified. Because you can afford the loss, he stated flatly. You will recover. We would not. That is not your decision to make. Well, we made it, he replied with finality. And what is done is done. I looked at my parents, hoping for support, but saw only conflict and weakness. I cannot believe this is happening, I said, my voice breaking. I cannot believe my own family would do this to me, and then act like I am the unreasonable one. No one thinks you are unreasonable for being upset, Mom said carefully. But we need to consider all aspects of the situation. The situation is simple, I stated. They stole from me. They should return what they stole. And they will, Dad assured me. Over time. That is not good enough, I insisted. Marcus stepped forward, his voice lowering threateningly. It will have to be, unless you want to tear this family apart over money. You already did that when you decided to steal from me, I replied, backing away from him. I looked at each of their faces, Marcus's smug confidence, Jessica's tearful manipulation, my parents' conflicted resignation. In that moment, I realized I was alone in this fight. Blood, it seemed, was thicker than theft. I need some time to process this, I said, finally turning toward the stairs. I am staying overnight. We will continue this discussion in the morning. No one stopped me as I climbed the stairs to my childhood bedroom, locking the door behind me. I sat on the bed, the same one I had slept in as a teenager, and allowed the tears I had been holding back to finally fall. I had been in my room for about an hour when my phone rang. The screen showed my cousin Rachel's name. "Amanda, are you okay? Your mom called saying you came back unexpectedly." I hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. Not really. I had a disagreement with Jessica and Marcus. "About money?" Rachel asked, surprising me with her directness. "How did you know?" Rachel sighed. "Because they borrowed my sapphire earrings last Christmas and never returned them. When I asked, they claimed they were lost and would replace them. They never did." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. "Rachel, they stole from my bank accounts. Over $100,000. "Oh my God," she gasped. "That is much worse than I thought. What are you going to do?" "I do not know yet. Mom and Dad seem more concerned about keeping the peace than getting my money back." "That sounds like Aunt Eleanor and Uncle Robert," Rachel said sadly, "always protecting Jessica from consequences." After speaking with Rachel, I opened my laptop and began searching. Marcus's name plus financial problems led me to several concerning results. A bankruptcy filing from 3 years ago. A DUI arrest with substantial fines. A small claims court judgment against him for unpaid contractor fees. Most disturbing was their social media presence. Despite claiming financial ruin, Jessica's Instagram showed vacation photos from Cancun just 2 months ago. Marcus's Facebook featured pictures of a new boat purchased last spring. Their supposed desperate circumstances did not match their lifestyle. I dug deeper, checking my email for any notifications I might have missed. There, buried in my spam folder, were confirmations for loan applications submitted in my name that weekend. They had not only stolen my existing money, but attempted to take out additional loans using my identity. A soft knock interrupted my research. Mom stood at the door with a plate of food. "You missed dinner," she said, placing the plate on the desk. "We need to talk." I turned my laptop screen toward her, showing the loan applications. "Did you know about this too?" Mom's face fell. "No, of course not. Amanda, this has gone too far." "You think?" I replied sarcastically. "They stole my savings and tried to take out fraudulent loans in my name. This is criminal activity, Mom." She sat heavily on the edge of the bed. "Your father and I have been helping them financially for years. We remortgaged this house twice to cover their debts. We thought they were getting back on track." "Why did you never tell me?" Jessica was embarrassed. "She did not want you to know they were struggling while you were succeeding." "So that justifies stealing from me?" I asked incredulously. "Nothing justifies that," Mom admitted. "But your father is worried about the family's reputation. If this becomes public, if legal action is taken." "You are still more concerned about appearances than justice," I noted bitterly. A commotion downstairs drew our attention. I could hear Dad and Marcus arguing. "I told you to handle your problems," Dad shouted. "Not drag the whole family into your mess." Mom rushed downstairs and I followed. In the living room, Dad stood red-faced while Marcus paced angrily. Jessica sat on the couch holding Sophia, who was crying. "What is going on?" Mom demanded. "I just got a call from Gerald," Dad explained. "Apparently Marcus borrowed $20,000 from him last year and never repaid it. When Gerald heard Amanda was back here, he put 2 and 2 together and called to warn me." All eyes turned to Marcus, who shrugged defensively. "I was going to pay him back. Business has been slow." "Business has been slow for 5 years, Dad snapped. "Meanwhile, you bought a boat and took vacations." Jessica looked up, confusion evident. "What boat? We cannot afford a boat." An uncomfortable silence filled the room as Marcus avoided her questioning gaze. "Show her Amanda," Dad instructed. I retrieved my laptop and opened Marcus's Facebook page, turning the screen toward Jessica. There he stood proudly, displaying a sleek speedboat with the caption, "New toy for summer fun." Jessica's face crumpled. "When was this? We can barely make mortgage payments. You told me we had no money for Tyler's speech therapy. It was an investment, Marcus defended weakly. For client entertainment. The Cancun trip was for clients too, I asked, opening Jessica's Instagram page. Jessica looked even more confused. That was not Cancun. Marcus told me the resort photos were from a work conference in Orlando. The company paid for it. The web of lies began to unravel before our eyes. Marcus had not only stolen from me and other family members, but had been lying to Jessica about their finances for years. You told me we were broke, Jessica whispered, realization dawning. You made me ask my parents for money while you were buying boats and taking trips. It is not what it looks like, Marcus insisted, but his excuses rang hollow. Dad turned to me. Amanda, I owe you an apology. This is clearly worse than I understood. The doorbell rang, interrupting the tense confrontation. Mom answered it to find Aunt Patricia and Uncle Gerald on the porch. We heard Amanda discovered what has been going on, Aunt Patricia said, entering the living room. We have things to add to this conversation. Over the next hour, a pattern emerged, as relatives shared stories. Marcus had borrowed money from various family members, always with urgent, sympathetic stories and promises of repayment that never materialized. Jessica had been partly aware, but believed their financial troubles were temporary and legitimate. He told me the business was just going through a rough patch, Jessica explained through tears, that everyone was helping us stay afloat until his big deals closed. There are no big deals, Uncle Gerald stated flatly. I checked with my contacts in real estate. Marcus has not had an active development project in 2 years. As the evening wore on, my anger shifted from Jessica to Marcus, who had manipulated not only me but my sister and the entire family. Jessica's betrayal still hurt deeply, but I began to see her as both perpetrator and victim. That night, alone in my room again, I made a decision. Family loyalty had its limits. Trust once broken required accountability to be rebuilt. With newfound resolve, I began to formulate a plan not just for recovery, but for justice. The next morning I woke early and called my friend Stephanie, who worked as an attorney specializing in financial fraud. They did what she exclaimed after I explained the situation. Amanda, this is serious criminal activity. Identity theft, wire fraud, unauthorized access to financial accounts. What are my options? I asked, keeping my voice low to avoid being overheard. You have several, she replied. Civil lawsuit for the recovery of funds, criminal charges for the fraud, identity theft report, to protect your credit. Given the family dynamics, you might want to start with a formal demand letter. Following Stephanie's advice, I spent the morning documenting everything. I took screenshots of the unauthorized transfers, the loan applications, and Marcus's social media posts, showing expenditures inconsistent with claimed financial hardship. Next, I called the bank's fraud department, providing them with the new evidence I had discovered. They escalated my case and issued temporary credits to my accounts while the investigation proceeded. Around noon, I texted Jessica asking to meet privately. We sat at the end of the dock, feet dangling above the water like we used to as children. I need to understand why, Jess, I said quietly. Not just the money, but the betrayal. Jessica stared at the water, her shoulders slumped. Marcus convinced me we had no choice. He said we were about to lose everything, that the kids would suffer. He made it sound temporary, just borrowing until his deal closed. But you had to know it was wrong. I did, she admitted, tears falling. I have been living in a fog of anxiety for years, Amanda. Every time I questioned Marcus about our finances, he would get angry, accuse me of not trusting him. He controlled all the accounts, gave me an allowance for household expenses. When that was not enough, he would tell me to ask Mom and Dad for help. Why did you never come to me directly? Pride at first, then shame, and honestly resentment. She looked at me directly. Your life seemed so perfect. Great career, financial stability, freedom. Meanwhile, I was trapped in a marriage that had become a prison of secrets and lies. That does not justify stealing from me. No, it does not, she agreed. Nothing does. I know an apology is not enough, but I am truly sorry, Amanda. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recorder app. I need you to say it clearly, Jessica. For the record, what exactly did you and Marcus do? She hesitated, then nodded in understanding. Marcus and I stole money from your bank accounts during the family reunion. We took your phone while you were changing after I deliberately spilled lemonade on you. Marcus had seen your password when you checked your balance earlier. We transferred $75,000 from your savings and maxed out your credit cards. Marcus also applied for loans in your name. It was wrong, illegal, and unforgivable. I stopped the recording. Thank you for the truth. What will you do now? She asked, fear evident in her voice. What I have to do, I replied, standing up. For both of us. Back in the house, I found my parents in the kitchen speaking in hushed tones. I have been in touch with a lawyer, and the bank fraud department, I informed them. I am giving Marcus one chance to return my money before I press charges. Amanda, Dad, began, his voice pleading. Think about Jessica and the kids. I am thinking about them, I assured him. This is not just about my money anymore. Jessica is in a financially abusive relationship. Marcus has been lying to all of us for years. Mom reached for my hand. What will happen to them if Marcus goes to jail? That is not my responsibility, I said firmly. I love Jessica and the kids, but there have to be consequences. Real ones, not just promises to do better. I spent the afternoon consulting with a financial advisor about protecting my remaining assets and creating a recovery plan. I changed all my passwords, froze my credit, and set up advanced security measures on my accounts. Next, I contacted a therapist who specialized in family trauma, scheduling an emergency session by phone. She helped me work through my feelings of betrayal and guilt, reminding me that maintaining boundaries was not the same as abandoning family. You can support your sister without enabling destructive behavior, she advised. Sometimes the kindest thing is allowing natural consequences to occur. By evening, I had assembled a comprehensive file of evidence and outlined clear terms for avoiding legal action, full repayment within 30 days, a signed confession, mandatory financial counseling for Jessica and Marcus, and a legally binding repayment plan for other family members they had stolen from. I called a family meeting for the following morning, knowing Marcus would likely reject these terms, but needing to offer one final opportunity for resolution without legal intervention. Before bed, I installed a small security camera in my overnight bag pointing toward the door of my bedroom. If Marcus or Jessica attempted to access my belongings again, I would have evidence. I spent a restless night reviewing my plan, strengthening my resolve against the emotional manipulation I knew would come. By morning, I was prepared for the confrontation that would either heal my family or forever change its structure. What I did not expect was to return to my apartment that evening to find the door ajar, contents scattered across the floor. Someone had broken in, seemingly searching for additional financial information. Nothing of value was taken, but the message was clear. Marcus was desperate and dangerous. This final violation cemented my decision. There would be no more chances, no more family loyalty at the expense of justice. The next day would bring consequences that had been years in the making. I returned to my parents' house the following morning with a thick manila folder under my arm. The family had gathered in the living room as requested. Marcus sat in my father's recliner, an intentional power move I chose to ignore. Jessica perched nervously on the couch beside my mother, while Dad stood by the fireplace. Aunt Patricia and Uncle Gerald had arrived as requested, sitting stiffly in the window seat. Thank you all for being here. I began, placing the folder on the coffee table. I have made a decision about how to proceed. If this is more drama about the money we have already discussed, this Marcus interrupted, we will pay you back when we can. That is not good enough, I stated firmly. Not anymore. I opened the folder and removed a document, handing it to Marcus. This is a repayment agreement. It requires you to return all stolen funds within 24 hours and establish a payment plan for the money you have taken from other family members. Marcus scanned the document, then laughed dismissively. This is ridiculous. We do not have $75,000 to give you right now. You managed to spend it in less than a week, I countered. Surely you can return it. Amanda, be reasonable, Dad interjected. They cannot produce that kind of money overnight. Then they should not have stolen it, Aunt Patricia stated firmly, surprising everyone with her support. Marcus tossed the document onto the table. I am not signing this. Then I will be filing police reports for theft, wire fraud, and identity theft, I replied calmly. I will also be contacting the State Bar Association regarding your real estate license. Jessica gasped. Amanda, please, think about the children. I am thinking about them, I assured her. What kind of example are we setting? If we teach them that stealing is acceptable, as long as you steal from family. This is blackmail, Marcus snarled. No, this is accountability, I corrected. Something you have apparently never faced. Marcus stood looming over me threateningly. You would not dare go to the police. The scandal would destroy this family. The theft is what damaged our family, I replied, standing my ground. Not the consequences. He laughed again, joined nervously by Jessica. You are bluffing. You would never follow through. I reached for my bag, pulling out a stack of papers. Then you will not mind what is coming next. Marcus continued laughing, and Jessica joined in with a nervous giggle. What more empty threats? At that precise moment, a loud bang shook the house as the front door swung open forcefully. 2 uniformed police officers entered, followed by a detective in plain clothes. Marcus Reynolds, the detective, asked, stepping into the living room. Marcus's laughter died instantly. Who wants to know? The detective held up his badge. Detective Michael Harrington, Financial Crimes Unit. We have a warrant to search these premises and to question you regarding allegations of wire fraud, identity theft, and grand larceny. The color drained from Marcus's face. This is a private family matter, he stammered. There must be some mistake. No mistake, sir, the detective replied, handing him the warrant. We received substantial evidence of financial crimes, including recorded confessions and documentation of unauthorized transfers. Jessica began to sob. Amanda, how could you? I filed the reports yesterday, I explained. After I discovered my apartment had been broken into. That was the final line, Jessica. My parents stood frozen in shock as the officers began their search. Detective Harrington addressed the room. I need to speak with Marcus and Jessica Reynolds privately. The rest of you should remain available for questioning. Marcus made a sudden move toward the back door, but one of the officers blocked his path. Sir, I would advise against trying to leave. This is all a misunderstanding. Marcus insisted, his confident demeanor crumbling. Tell them, Jessica. Tell them you had permission to access Amanda's accounts. All eyes turned to Jessica, who looked trapped. She glanced at me, then at her children, who had appeared at the top of the stairs, confused by the commotion. She began, then straightened her shoulders. No, Marcus. I will not lie anymore. We did not have permission. We stole that money. Marcus lunged toward her. Shut up. Do you know what you are doing? The officers immediately restrained him. Sir, please keep your distance and lower your voice. Detective Harrington turned to Jessica. Mrs. Reynolds, are you willing to make a statement regarding these allegations? Jessica looked at her children, then at me. Yes, she said quietly. I will tell you everything. The next hour passed in a blur of activity. The officers discovered financial documents hidden in Marcus and Jessica's luggage, including records of previous thefts from other family members. Jessica provided a full statement detailing years of financial manipulation by Marcus and her own complicity in the crimes. My parents moved between shock, anger, and grief as the extent of the deception became clear. Dad pulled me aside during a quiet moment. I failed you, he admitted, his voice breaking. I should have listened when you first told us. You believed what you wanted to believe, I replied. We all did. Mom sat with Tyler and Sophia in the kitchen, trying to shield them from the worst of the scene, while explaining that their father had made some mistakes and would need to go away for a while. As the officers prepared to take Marcus to the station, he turned to me with pure hatred in his eyes. "You will regret this. Nobody will thank you for destroying this family." "You destroyed it," I replied calmly. "I am just making sure you cannot hurt anyone else." Jessica approached me as Marcus was led away. "I do not know what happens now," she whispered. "For me, for the kids. We will figure it out," I promised, though I was not yet ready to forgive her. But there needed to be truth first. Aunt Patricia placed a supportive hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, Amanda, hard as it was." As the police cars drove away, my family stood fragmented on the front lawn. The illusion of perfect family harmony was shattered, but in its place was the possibility of something more authentic: relationships built on honesty rather than appearances, accountability rather than enabling, and genuine care rather than blind loyalty. That night, as the house finally quieted, I sat on the dock, watching moonlight ripple across the lake. For the first time since discovering the theft, I felt a sense of peace. The road ahead would be difficult, but it would be built on truth. The weeks following that fateful confrontation were among the most challenging of my life. The criminal case against Marcus proceeded swiftly, bolstered by Jessica's testimony and the substantial evidence I had gathered. He accepted a plea deal, rather than face trial, receiving a 5-year sentence for multiple financial crimes. Jessica avoided jail time through a cooperation agreement, but faced probation and mandatory financial counseling. She moved in with our parents, temporarily beginning the long process of rebuilding her life independently of Marcus's influence. My relationship with my parents evolved through difficult conversations and gradual healing. Dad finally acknowledged his role in enabling Jessica and Marcus's behavior over the years. "I thought I was protecting her," he confessed, during a private conversation on the porch. "Instead, I was helping trap her in a toxic situation." Mom struggled longer with her guilt. "I should have seen what was happening," she repeated often. "A mother should know when her child is in trouble." Through the bank's fraud protection and the legal proceedings, I recovered about 60% of my stolen money. The rest had been spent immediately by Marcus on gambling debts and luxury purchases that could not be reclaimed. It was a significant loss, but I focused on rebuilding rather than dwelling on what could not be recovered. 3 months after the confrontation, Jessica called me to meet for coffee. She looked healthier than she had in years, with clear eyes and a calmness that had long been absent. "The counselor says I need to make amends properly," she began. "Not just apologize, but take concrete actions to repair the harm I caused." She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $5,000. "It is not much compared to what was taken, but it is a start. I sold my engagement ring and some jewelry Marcus had given me. I will continue making payments every month." "Thank you," I said, genuinely moved by the gesture. "How are you really doing?" "Some days are harder than others," she admitted. "The kids miss their father, though the therapist says they are adjusting well. I have started working part-time at a local bookstore. It is not much, but it is mine." "And Marcus?" "He still blames everyone but himself. His letters alternate between manipulation and threats. I have stopped reading them." She reached for my hand. "I do not expect you to forgive me, Amanda. But I want you to know, I am doing everything I can to become someone worthy of trust again." Over the following year, our family structure reorganized itself around new boundaries and expectations. Aunt Patricia and Uncle Gerald became unexpected allies, hosting regular dinners where honest conversations were valued over superficial harmony. Rachel and I grew closer, supporting each other through the family transition. My parents sold the lake house to help pay off the second mortgage they had taken out to cover Jessica's debts. The annual family reunion tradition was paused, replaced by smaller, more authentic gatherings. I eventually purchased a smaller condo than I had originally planned, adjusting my expectations while not abandoning my goals. Each night in my new home represented a victory over betrayal, a testament to resilience. On the anniversary of the confrontation, I returned to my parents' new modest home for dinner. Jessica was there with the children who ran to hug me enthusiastically. "Auntie Amanda, Mom says you are the bravest person she knows," Tyler announced, climbing into my lap. Jessica blushed. "I have been trying to teach them about integrity even when it is difficult." After dinner, Dad raised his glass in a toast. To healing and truth, however painful. And to Amanda, who had the courage to demand both when the rest of us faltered. Later, as Jessica and I washed dishes side by side, she asked the question that had been unspoken between us. "Do you think you will ever fully trust me again?" I considered carefully before answering. Trust is not an all-or-nothing proposition. I trust the person you are becoming now, even if I remain cautious about the past. That is growth for both of us. She nodded, accepting this complex truth. "I think about it every day, you know. Not just the money, but how easily I betrayed my own values, my own sister. I tell myself it was Marcus's influence, but that is only partly true. I made choices too." "We all did," I acknowledged. "The important thing is the choices we make now." As I drove home that night, I reflected on the painful lessons of the past year. I had learned that family loyalty means nothing without integrity at its core. That love without accountability becomes enabling. That sometimes the most loving act is establishing firm boundaries even when they hurt. Most importantly, I learned that self-respect must come before the approval of others, even those we love most deeply. By standing firm in that storm, I had not only recovered my financial security, but had helped free my sister from a toxic marriage and forced my parents to confront unhealthy patterns that had persisted for decades. The price was high, but the authentic relationships emerging from the ashes of betrayal were perhaps worth it. Not a fairy tale ending, but a true one. Not perfect, but real. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have taken the difficult path of holding family accountable, or sought the easier road of sweeping betrayal under the rug? I would love to read your thoughts in the comments below. If my story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more true family stories that might help you navigate your own challenging relationships. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes love means having the courage to stand alone for what is right.